combative disposition of Mr. President to the demand for restructuring. We have defined it. The board and the court of Mr. President as custodians of the body of knowledge and know-how required to undertake this inevitable reconfiguration and reconstruction of the damaged constitutional foundations of Nigeria. We will stand by to offer our guidance to the process. With every sense of responsibility and has already been campaigned for by the LNC and MNN Alliance partners, it is our conviction that the situation calls for a public acknowledgement by you that the 1999 Constitution is a source of the misery of Nigeria and Nigerians, and this acknowledgement should be accompanied by a formal announcement defining the 2019 elections, as well as the immediate initiation of a timeline transitioning process with the balance of your tenure along the paradigms outlined in this memorandum in place of further national elections in 2019 under the reputed 1999 Constitution, which can only worsen the situation of Nigeria, as was the case in 1964-65 elections that landed Nigeria in the catastrophes of 1966 to 1970. For more illumination on restructuring from self-determination perspective, you may wish to view the YouTube title, Nigeria, a Valley of Decision. May God grant you the wisdom and the courage required to steer the troubled ship of the Nigerian state in the present turbulent waters. For and on behalf of the Lower Niger Congress and its MNN Alliance,
that was it.
Okay, thank you very much, Otumba Olukoya. For today's very important proclamation, the force majeure. And also to say that these are just the late signatory. There are over 20 million other signatories that we are hoping to process, to forward to the United Nations to do the needful. And we are also very excited that most of the signatories are right here on this call. So immediately after we finish scrolling the signatories, we will go ahead and make the proclamation. Okay, so there's no music background, incidentally, but we will also scroll this again when it's done. But this day, the December 16th instructions, some guidelines as to where they can go to also add their signatory for this very important event. Okay, so here we go. So as you can see, these are very key individuals and the people, the core representatives of the people of the ethnic nations in Nigeria. These are people whom the ethnic nations themselves have, feel very comfortable to represent them, far more comfortable and far more reliable with them than the people who are currently in Abuja trying to represent them. Okay, so thank you very much. All right, so I want to observe that the network is compromised where Professor Akintoye, who is actually billed or who was billed to read the proclamation, where he is, the network is compromised, and we have done quite some bits to try to make it happen over the past couple of hours. And it looks like that is not happening at this time. But however, Professor Kintoye, the lead signatory for today's proclamation, is on the call. And then all the other signatories, the lead signatories, are also represented. So as a result, because what must happen, because the spirit is already here. So the joint leadership of the NINAS Alliance, the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, so took the decision that the Secretary General of the LNC, who is also the co-convener of the NINAS Alliance, will go ahead and read the proclamation. So, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we have been waiting for is here, and I would like to invite the Secretary General of the Lower Niger Congress and the co-convener of the NINAS Alliance, Barrister Tony Nnadi, Mr. Tony Nnadi, to read the proclamation on behalf of the NINAS Alliance.
Welcome our people. Our co-compatriots in the Union of Nigeria, the District Federation of Nigeria, gentlemen for the media, we welcome you. This is a notice of constitutional grievances, a declaration of constitutional force majeure, and a demand for a transitioning process for an orderly reconfiguration of the constitutional basis of the Federation of Nigeria, being a joint proclamation of a sovereignty dispute by accredited delegates of Nigerian indigenous nationalities of the Southern and Western territories of Nigeria, issued this 16th day of December 2020. This proclamation is titled correcting the mistake of 1914. As the distressed Federation of Nigeria wobbles in what seems its terminal throes, as young Nigerians rise up massive revolt against the system that ruin their present and compromise their future.
Please, could you all mute, or can the host please mute everybody? There is a lot of noise coming in and interference. Please, host, could you mute everybody? Could you mute everybody? And then we will have to take this. Orebe, please mute phone. There's a lot of noise coming from your phones. Host, please, could you mute everybody? We're going to take this again in the beginning because we have it. We have it recorded. We're still hearing the background noise. Johnny, please, could you mute everybody? So there's someone with Orebe. There's a user called Orebe. Please remove, mute the person.
Yeah, I'm muted. I'm muted.
We can still hear some noise. We want absolute quiet for this.
Everybody is muted except Tony Nadi. Okay, there's okay, just one person. I just.
Okay, and there's also Ademola Oyelola. Please, could you mute? Could you mute? We want absolute quiet because we're recording this. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so Mr. Tony Nadi is going to start all over again.
Nigeria, being the joint proclamation of a sovereignty dispute by accredited delegates of the Nigerian indigenous nationalities, the southern and middle belt territories of Nigeria, issued the 16th day of December 2020 in Lagos. This proclamation is titled Correcting the Mistake of 1914. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, as the distressed federation of Nigeria wobbles in what seems its terminal throes, as young Nigerians rise up massively in revolt against a system that ruins their present and compromises their future, and as bloody conflicts rage in all parts of Nigeria in disputation the terms of the distressed Nigerian Union, and as concerns mount in the international community. First, regarding the shaky future of the troubled Nigerian Federation, and second, the impact of a possible disorderly dissolution of Nigeria over the West African sub-region, the rest of Africa, and indeed the world. We gather here this day as accredited delegates of the constituent component nationalities of Nigeria under the aegis of Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, being a joint cooperation for the self-determination initiatives of the southern and middle belt of Nigeria on behalf of various peoples and interests to pronounce an end to our toleration of Nigeria's unitary constitutional order, unilaterally imposed and forcefully maintained by a section of the Nigerian country in negation of the federal basis upon which Nigeria became one political union at independence in 1960 and improved subjugation of our collective sovereignties, currently being forcefully and fraudulently appropriated by the Nigerian state. We gather here today before the global community to formally proclaim a further representations here, but suffice it to recall, one, that the manipulations that went into the flawed foundations laid by the British in 1914 amalgamation of the protectorates of southern Nigeria with the Protectorate of Northern Nigeria, as revealed in recently declassified British colonial records on Nigeria, created a lopsided union, locking the diverse peoples of Nigeria into one political union with two mortally opposed civilizations. Two, that as independence approached 1960, the diversities of various peoples of the Nigerian Union dictated the adoption of the federal constitutional model by the then three largely autonomous regions, namely the eastern, western, and northern regions of Nigeria, as basis of entering into independence as one political union in 1960. Three, that amidst the early strains of post-independence Nigeria, arising mainly from the aforementioned foundational and independent and pre-independence manipulations by the British colonial rulers of the Nigerian Union, the military coups of 1966 truncated the federal constitutional basis of Nigeria and plunged the fledgling union into a catastrophic 30-month war, with each breakaway eastern region between 1967 and 1970, triggered by disputations around the terms of the Nigerian Union and leaving in its trail human carnage in excess of 3 million people and a fractured union now resting on an unworkable unitary constitutional order imposed in 1979, first by the fiat of the illicit federal government who emerged since 1966, collapse of the Federation of Nigeria, forcefully hijacking and confiscating the sovereignties of the constituent components regions of Nigeria that federated their sovereignties in 1960. That the prevailing 1999 Constitution of Nigeria, which was a wholesale adoption of the 1979 edition via Decree number 24 of 1999, revalidated, reinforced the aforementioned hijack and confiscation of the sovereignties, powers, and stripped the federating states of all key assets, economic assets, and governmental powers, thereby creating a totally dysfunctional, corruption-prone, over-centralized system that has failed in every respect, manifesting in gross insecurity, decayed infrastructure, and mass impoverishment, such that Nigeria, with its vast human and material resource endowments, has now emerged as the poverty capital of the world, as well as the global leading example of a failed state. 5. There is a countrywide consensus against the unitary constitutional arrangement imposed incrementally on Nigeria by a combination of guile, brute force, and impunity between 1966 and 1999, now codified by the 1999 Constitution. This countrywide consensus has manifested in several unilateral, regional, and multi-regional actions in repudiation and rejection of the unitary Constitution of Nigeria. The first indication that was in the year 2000, the 12 contiguous states of the far north simultaneously imposed and began to implement Sharia in their domains against the express provision of the 1999 Constitution, which in section 10 forbids the adoption of any state religion. This translates to a unilateral secession from the secular Union of Nigeria. Between 2005 and 2006, a sovereign conference of ethnic nationalities of Nigeria, convened by the Pro-National Conference Organizations, PNACO, deliberated exhaustively and produced a draft People's Constitution in 2006, which had the potential of restoring Nigeria to its damaged federal foundations. Though ignored by successive governments in Nigeria, that draft became the new federating consensus against the prevailing unitary constitutional order in Nigeria. It will be recalled that prior to the 1999 return to civil rule in Nigeria and before PNACO, there was NADECO, which vigorously challenge both the aberration of military governance in Nigeria and Nigeria's unitarized federalism, both by military decrees. C, as a way of easing out the rejected military constitutional order and paving the instituted a lawsuit at the Federal High Court in Abuja, challenging the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution on the grounds of fraud and forgery, and sought an order of court for the termination of the operation of the 1999 Constitution via an 18-month transitioning arrangement. D, the MNN alliance by East MNN Lagos Declaration of June 30, 2011, jointly repudiated the 1999 Constitution as the basis of the Nigerian Federation and mandated the alliance blocks to distill their various regional charters and constitutional drafts in readiness for the inevitable fundamental reconfiguration of the distressed Nigerian Federation to be ratified by referendums and plebiscites. We hereby adopt and incorporate the said MNN Lagos Declaration of June 30, 2011 in support of this proclamation. E, pursuant to the mandates of the MNN Lagos Declaration of June 30, 2011, the regional blocks of the MNN Alliance convened their various regional Solomon assemblies between 2015 and 2018, namely the April 27, 2015 Solomon Assembly of the Peoples of the Lower Niger in Port Harcourt, that is the Southeast and South, that Lower Niger Territory. The 7th September 2017 Yoruba Summit in Ibadan, and the July 18, 2018 Emergency Assembly of the Peoples of the Middle Belt in Makurdi. Each of these regional Solomon assemblies formally repudiated and rejected the 1999 Constitution as the basis of the Federation. We hereby endorse, adopt, and incorporate the resolutions reached by each of those Solomon assemblies. F, having rejected the 1999 Constitution as the basis of the Nigerian Federation, and in the face of ferocious coordinated ethnic cleansing onslaught of the murderous Fulani militia against indigenous peoples of Nigeria, the MNN Alliance mobilized the people, the alliance territories, under the aegis of the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination to issue the joint multi-regional Freedom Pact Proclamation of December 11, 2018, by which the alliance territories rejected the conduct of further national elections mandated by the repudiated 19th Constitution and mandated a transition in place of the largely doomed 1999 Constitution, and demanded a transition in place of the largely doomed 2019 national elections as a way of putting a time to the termination of the operation of the 1999 Constitution and the distillation of successor constitutional protocols. The said Freedom Pact Proclamation of December 11, 2018 is hereby adopted and incorporated in support of this present proclamation. It is pertinent to note that across all the regions of Nigeria, various social, cultural, and ethnic interests, various organizations have also been vehement in expressing the constitutional grievances of their own people, some even violently. Thus, on the Yoruba side, we have the Afenifere, the Yoruba Elders Council, Agbekoya, the Yoruba Liberation Command, the YWC, and many more, including the Ilana Omo Odua, which now aggregates several Yoruba self-determination initiatives across the world in the eastern part of southern Nigeria. Habo Hanese, Movement for the Survival of the Ijaw Ethnic Nationality in the Niger Delta, that's Mosient, Ijaw National Congress, INC, Ijaw Youth Congress, DEF, Midwest Movement, the Delta People Volunteer Force, MEND, MASOB, IPOB, others in the Middle Belt. We have the Middle Belt Forum, the MBC, the SOCAPO, the Connector, and many others. Several notable statesmen in Nigeria, including General Olusegun Obasanjo and Yakubu Gowon, both former heads of states, have lent their voices to the urgent imperative of the fundamental reform of the damaged constitutional basis of Nigeria, warning that any further delay may lead to the catastrophic collapse of the distressed Nigerian Union. Nigeria's former defense minister, Lieutenant General Theophilus Danjuma, had also urged indigenous peoples of Nigeria facing the ethnic cleansing onslaught of the murderous Fulani invaders to defend themselves and their lands in the face of obvious collusion of the federal government of Nigeria and its armed forces with the Fulani invaders. In the aftermath of the October 2020 end-SARS protests, many, including the Nigerian Christian elders from now insist that Nigeria needs to be renegotiated. Between January and July of 2019, a delegation of the Alliance territories engaged the international community, especially stakeholder institutions in Washington, D.C., to alert the U.S. and the community of the degenerating security situation in Nigeria, where ISWAP, terror machinery of ISIS, made sweeping inroads into Nigeria, and the Lake Chad Basin, Nigeria as its hub, with large-scale killings and dislodgement of Christian indigenous populations, mainly in the Middle Belt and the South, encouraged by what seems a manifestly sympathetic of Nigeria and its armed forces in circumstances that present terror-related concerns to the global community, particularly the United States. 3, specific constitutional grievances touching on the sovereignties of the constituent components of the distressed Federation of Nigeria, which are beyond the powers of the legislative mandate of the National Assembly of Nigeria or the federal government of Nigeria to unilaterally address. Let me repeat. Specific constitutional, this is touching on the sovereignties of the constituent components of the distressed Federation of Nigeria, which are beyond the powers and legislative mandate of the National Assembly of Nigeria or the federal government of Nigeria to unilaterally address.
Can you see yourself? Okay.
1, the claim in the preamble to the 1999 Constitution that one. We continue with the specific constitutional grievances. 1, the claim in the preamble to the 1999 Constitution that we, the people, firmly and solemnly resolved to live in one political union, and that we enacted and gave ourselves the 1999 Constitution is self-evidently false, as Decree number 24 of 1999, by which the so-called 1999 Constitution was promulgated, outlines step by step the process by which the author of the 1999 Constitution, General Absalom Abaka, and his Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council came about the document it labeled the 1999 Constitution. This is a criminal usurpation of the sovereignties of the constituent components, whose exclusive right it is to make for themselves the constitution by which they will federate and be governed as an incident of their sovereignty, even by the admission of the 1999 Constitution as Section 14.2a, and I quote, "Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom government through this Constitution derive all its powers and authority. This is the fountain from which all other constitutional grievances flow. and there is no other remedy to this particular grievance than an autochthonous process by which the constituent components will submit their peoples and their lands into a union, and also stipulate the terms of that union to be ratified by referendums and plebiscites. We refer to Decree number 24 as incorporated into the 1999 Constitution and the preambular text of the 1999 Constitution. It's still there for everybody to see. The claim that we made the Constitution, that's the biggest complaint of the nationalities against that Constitution. 2, the second grievance. A federation is a union of constitutions, and Nigeria became a federation of 3 largely autonomous regions at independence in 1960, when those regions, each armed with its own constitution, agreed to federate into one political union after a series of negotiations at Lancaster House in London between 1957 and 1959. The Midwestern region became the 4th region of Nigeria in 1963 from a constitutional process. The 36 states and 774 local government structure